Hello class, in our last session we have started the chapter analytical chemistry and we came to know about what is qualitative analysis, what is precipitate, what is precipitation reaction, and then after that we have seen what will be the action of caustic soda solution or sodium hydroxide on salt solutions. Now today we are going to see action of ammonium hydroxide on certain salt solutions. So what will happen when ammonium hydroxide solution is added to salt solution? So when ammonium hydroxide solution is added dropwise to the solution of metallic salts, precipitates of their hydroxides are formed. Here also a precipitation reaction takes place and precipitates of hydroxides will be formed, which we can identify by their distinct colors. Some precipitate metals hydroxides are soluble in excess of ammonium hydroxide. So when you add more sodium hydroxide, some of them precipitates are soluble because of the formation of soluble amino compounds and further reaction with excess of ammonium hydroxide. Now let us see, this is the general equation for ammonium hydroxide with the salt solution. So when salt solution reacts with ammonium hydroxide, it is going to form metal hydroxide, which is the precipitate, plus salt formed in solution. Okay. Now for calcium salt, when you react ammonium hydroxide, no precipitate formed, and even with the addition of excess of sodium hydroxide. The reason is that the concentration of sodium hydroxide, the concentration of hydroxyl ion OH minus ion from the ionization of ammonium hydroxide is so low that it cannot precipitate the hydroxide of calcium. Next, when it reacts with iron salt, say for example ferrous, FeSO4. So when ferrous sulfate, which is green in color, when reacts with ammonium hydroxide, it undergo a reaction where a precipitate is formed, which is ferrous hydroxide, which has got color dirty green. Precipitate is formed, and ammonium sulfate. Now this dirty green precipitate, when you add excess of sodium hydroxide, it remains insoluble. That means it remains insoluble. Next, when you react with the ferric, that is FeCl3 sodium ammonium hydroxide, it is going to form a reddish brown precipitate of ferric hydroxide plus ammonium chloride, and this reddish brown precipitate is also insoluble in excess of ammonium hydroxide. Similarly, you can see for with ferrous sulfate, here also is present in a ferric ion, so it is formed reddish brown precipitate and ammonium sulfate. Next, with copper salt. So when copper sulfate, which is blue in color, when reacts with ammonium hydroxide, it is going to form copper hydroxide, which is a pale blue precipitate. Similarly, when copper hydroxide reacts with excess of ammonium hydroxide, it is going to form tetramine copper sulfate, and which is soluble in excess of ammonium hydroxide and forms deep blue solution. Next, with zinc salt. So when ammonium hydroxide reacts with zinc salt, say for example zinc sulfate, it is going to form white gelatinous PPT of zinc hydroxide and ammonium sulfate. This gelatinous white precipitate, when you react with excess of sodium hydroxide, it will be soluble. Similarly, if you take a lead salt, that is lead nitrate, reacts with ammonium hydroxide to form white precipitate of lead hydroxide and ammonium nitrate. So when you add excess of sodium hydroxide, it is insoluble, it remains as it is, chalky white precipitate.